Hey, thanks for joining us here on 9 News Watch for a detailed look at that Colorado weather forecast. And I think that image behind me kind of speaks pretty loudly to what we're seeing in the mountains right now. Snow, and it is just absolutely hammering right now at the Eisenhower Tunnel and throughout much of western Colorado. I'll tell you what there, folks, that looks like maybe half-mile visibility. It's probably inch an hour plus snows for us there at the Eisenhower Tunnel. And you can see kind of on the far right-hand side of your screen, that traffic at most is crawling along at this point. So very dangerous, very slippery travel conditions through the mountains. Other thing I want to emphasize here, folks, and I know a lot of us, especially with this being our first significant snow event of the season for the mountains, we're going to be focusing on the snow. Do not overlook the winds. They're going to be really, really strong today for us here, especially in southern Colorado. I know a lot of you are already seeing that. If you're joining us from the San Juans or the San Luis Valley, you're probably already seeing some of those really strong winds. But again, I want to emphasize the fact that those winds will be whipping about over 50 miles an hour through a good chunk of the state, and those strong winds will move east as we head through the day. All right, here's a look at the coloring book of weather of alerts for us here across the state. My goodness, that is quite a lot to get into. Other than really cold temperatures, strong winds, fire danger, and heavy snow, we got nothing going on here in Colorado for your day today. We are looking at quite a bit in the way of active weather, and you know what, folks, it's mid-October here in Colorado, so nothing too unusual, well, nothing that unusual, I suppose, about something like this time of year. That said, a couple of kind of big takeaways. One, again, I want to reemphasize the wind. I know a lot of us are going to be focused on the snow. Yes, it's the first big snow of the season. Don't overlook the winds. We will be looking at some of those red flag warnings through central Colorado. That'd be for the South Park area on south into a good chunk of Teller County, as well as down into the northern San Luis Valley, where we do have those red flag warnings in place. Winter storm warning looks like right now the heaviest of the snow is into the southwestern corner of the state, so the San Juans. I know Telluride's already picked about 8-9 inches worth of snowfall. Wouldn't be surprised if in and around Wolf Creek we're already talking about a foot of snow. That's a guess, but I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about that much snow, especially the eastern San Juans, which are going to be favored out of the storm. By the way, the northern mountains, Steamboat Springs, the Parks, the Elkheads, as well as the Gords, you're going to get your snow tonight. So I know you've probably haven't seen a ton in northern Colorado yet. Trust me, it is coming. And then a freeze watch for northwestern Colorado, high wind watch for the foothills west of Denver and Fort Collins, and then a high wind warning for southeastern Colorado. Whew. That is a lot to get into. All right. Meantime, those wind gusts right now, not a lot for us here in Denver. And kind of interestingly, the way that the forecast is sitting up, I think Denver, we're going to be in a kind of a strange wind hole today. We won't see a ton of wind, most likely in the city proper. Foothills, Palmer Divide, different story. I'll get into that in just a second, but those wind gusts accelerate as you get east. If you're driving east on I-70, definitely two hands on the wheel. Well, always two hands on the wheel, but especially today when we're talking about those winds. Now getting close to 50 miles an hour there by Burlington, right on I-70, I-76, seeing some of those strong winds as well up by Sterling, Holyoke, seeing some of those strong winds, 40 plus miles an hour at this point. Those stronger winds for southeastern Colorado really kick in later on today. So if you're joining us from southeastern Colorado, and those winds probably are starting to whip about a little bit. It gets worse later on today. So Baca County, Prowers County, on west into, again, Trinidad, Walsenburg, as well as north through Pueblo and Colorado Springs. Again, those winds will really kind of whip about today. Notice Denver, though, 10 miles an hour. Again, we may be in kind of a strange wind hole in Denver proper. You get south through the Palmer Divide. If you're making that trip from Denver to Colorado Springs or in reverse, you will be noticing those winds really kind of pick on up as you get through, say, Larkspur Monument and through central and southern parts of Douglas County. Meantime, those gusts will continue in eastern Colorado for tonight, but those winds will start to back on off later on this evening. The foothills get some of the stronger winds as we get early into tomorrow morning. As our system starts to depart, we'll see that pressure gradient, or that airflow from high to low pressure, start to really kind of pick on up tonight in the foothills. So again, wind-wise takeaways for us is we're going to still be kind of seeing those strong winds as we get later on through today in eastern Colorado. The foothills and the Palmer Divide, you pick up your winds overnight tonight and early tomorrow morning. Then those winds tomorrow really do back off as we head through the course of the day, and by Thursday, where wind will not be a real big factor for us statewide. So again, strong winds for some of us today. The rest of us early tomorrow morning. All right, let's get into probably what you really want to talk about, which is the snow. We've got two systems kind of merging right now, but a big one just spinning its way through the four corners right now. It's centered over southeastern Utah. That as going to be our main player, and that's why we're seeing so much of that heavy snow in southwestern Colorado, even seeing a little bit of thunder snow right now just outside of Grand Junction and through the Nucla and Naturita areas of the Uncompahgre National Forest, and then seeing a little bit of snow for us also extending east into the wet mountains as well as the Sangre de Cristos. Denver, we do have some showers trying to approach us from the south and west, but if you're hoping to get a little bit of wet weather on the garden, it's not looking all that great for us here in Denver. We're getting those downsloping winds. That's keeping us on the mild side. Look at that for you in Pueblo, 71 right now, 73 in Lamar. So if you step outside and you don't get blown away, it's going to be on the mild side right now here in the southeastern Colorado. For us here into the Denver area, 53 degrees right now. So we're starting to see some of those clouds start to impact those temperatures, but look at the mountains. A lot of us in the 30s and 40s right now, some of that heavy snow continuing. And then we do have that threat for some severe storms we get later on through the evening in far eastern Colorado. So again, we're really getting the full mix of weather here from Mother Nature. Snow in the mountains, severe storms in eastern Colorado, and in between a lot of strong winds. So that snow will continue for us, moving from southwest to northeast as we head through the course of the day. So tonight, the heaviest snow will favor more northern Colorado. That said, the San Juans, the West Elks, the Maroon Bells, the wet mountains, even the Gores there in the Summit County Mountains along I-70. We'll still be talking about snow out here, but it just won't be quite as heavy as what we're seeing right now, for example, in Telluride along the Eisenhower Tunnel. Again, that wind will kind of that snow will wind down from southwest to northeast as we head through the day. Northern Colorado, you get your heavy snow more tonight. And then again, eastern Colorado, we got the threat for some damaging winds, some large hail, and that will be mainly east of kind of Lyme and Hugo. You get east of there, that's where you're starting to look at some of that increased risk for severe weather. Denver, a few showers, that's about it. And you know what, the short range models are really bearish on those rain chances. I'll tell you what here, folks, I'm right there on board with you. If you're kind of mad or hoping for some of that rain, I agree with you here, folks. By the way, since June the 1st, Denver has picked up less than 2 inches worth of rainfall, second driest June 1st through October the 12th on record, and the driest since 1917. So it's been an exceptionally dry stretch for us here in Denver. We really kind of hoping that we'd squeeze out some moisture out of the system. I'll tell you what here, folks, just not happening. Maybe a few hundredths of an inch of rain for us here through the Denver area. A little bit more as you get into the foothills, but not any sort of drought buster, unfortunately. Tonight, temperatures for us here in Denver do drop back into kind of the frost territory. We'll be getting into the mid-30s tonight with those showers ending. We'll get some of that radiational cooling. You get rid of those clouds, that kind of blanket of clouds that kind of traps in some of that warmer air at the surface. You get rid of those clouds and that colder air mass really seeps in. You'll get some of that long wave radiation. Long story short, tonight it will be dropping back into the mid-30s. I know. Keep it together out there, folks. It is the Nerd Show. Meantime, tomorrow temperatures into the low 60s, mostly sunny for us here into the Denver area. So a nice fall day for your day tomorrow. Winds really back on off as we head through the day. That said, the foothills and the Palmer Divide, we do have some of those gusts earlier on in the morning, and then those winds will kind of dissipate as we head through the course of the day. So again, as we get into tomorrow, still holding on to some of that leftover moisture in the mountains, so it won't stop necessarily snowing entirely in the mountains until probably later tomorrow afternoon. Again, get that moisture trapped in the mountains. It takes a little while for it to wring itself out. And that's why I'll still be holding on to some of those leftover pesky flurries throughout the course of the day tomorrow from I-70 on north. Then by tomorrow night, we're really done with the snow. And then maybe a little bit of snow for us here into the Denver area on Thursday and Friday. I'll say this here. Yesterday, it looked a little bit more enticing, or it looked like we were going to be seeing maybe an inch or two of snow in Denver. I don't think we're going to be looking at much in the way of snow at all for us Thursday night, Friday morning. Just a few flakes, maybe a dusting for us here in the Denver area. Palmer Divide, the foothills, maybe a slushy inch or two. That'll about do it. But you know what? Again, we'll take the moisture. We'll certainly take maybe even our first flakes of the season for us here in Denver. It will not be a high impact system, so we'll leave that little snowflake in there for your Thursday night and your Friday morning. But again, this is not going to be any sort of a big deal. A few snowflakes for us on your Thursday, maybe a dusting in your car tops and grassy surfaces in town, the foothills, the Palmer Divide, an inch or two depending on your elevation. And then this weekend, it is just gorgeous. fantastic fall weather. So we get the whole mixed bag here from Mother Nature today and maybe on Thursday as well. Then we clear things on up, and the weekend is spectacular. 72 on Sunday, 71 on Monday. This is the fall weather that I think a lot of you were looking forward to and would like to see, with some of those, again, warmer temperatures and also sunny skies. So kind of looking here at the weekend, focusing on the positive, right? The weekend looking absolutely fantastic for us with those temperatures, 60s and 70s for those highs for us throughout the weekend. Kind of going back to that 7-day, again, we do have a fairly cool Thursday and Friday. I want to reemphasize the fact I've been saying this since all of last week. Remember here, folks, I know a lot of the focus, especially in the first snow of the season, tends to be, oh my goodness, it's going to snow. The real takeaway here as well is we're going to certainly be talking about our first freeze of the season. It may happen this morning, 6,000 feet or above, tomorrow morning, I should say. But most likely that first freeze of the season will be on Thursday or Friday morning across the metro area. So if you haven't blown out your sprinklers, trust me, we just did that this weekend. This is going to be the time to do that. So right now, if you haven't already, I'm sure that the sprinkler folks are doing some pretty good business this week, because this is the time to do it, because we are certainly talking about our first freeze of the season this week. Anticipate those freeze watches and warnings to be issued over the course of the next few days. So for those of you joining us here on Facebook Watch, I am multitasking right now and hopping on in to try and see if you got any comments or questions right now. Ooh, a lot of comments. It's like there's a lot of weather going on. So yes, we are certainly looking at some of that snow right now, and a lot of questions about that snowfall and that scale I had there. Yes, I know that's gotten a fair bit of attention here. Let's go back to that here. But again, for the Denver area, in fact, I'm going to probably change this here, because right now, as of yesterday, it looked like we were going to be seeing enough snow that we could be seeing at least a slushy inch in Denver. I'm going to bump this back up to that Snapchat snow level. This could be a few flakes, maybe a dusting. It is going to be a social media nightmare, but it's going to be a complete breeze on the roads, that kind of snow event. But hopefully it gives you an idea about what we could be talking about here as we get into your Saturday, I should say into your Friday morning. So let's look at the overall time frame and that snowfall for you. Again, yesterday the models were a bit more bullish on this, but they've really backed on off for the course of the last 12 hours or so. Looks like we'll start as a little bit of rain, then flip over to some snow, and that'll about do it. Again, a few flakes. Everyone's going to be sending you social media videos of, oh my goodness, it's mid-October and it's snowing in Denver, even though it happens every year, but that is a mild aside for us here. 7-day forecast. Yeah, there you go. The weekend, that looks absolutely fantastic for us. Low 70s by your Sunday. That sounds pretty nice to me. So it doesn't look like getting a ton of comments and questions. Appreciate everyone for joining on in. Hopefully I've given you a lot of detail. There was a lot to get into, and I love this format because we can really kind of break down everything for you and get some of those hyper-local details for you. And again, we've got the full mixed bag right now going on here across the state, with that wind, with that snow, with that severe weather, with temperatures that are really going to be crashing down into the Front Range and throughout the state over the course of the next 24 hours. So hopefully giving you some pretty good detail about that. And by the way, Danny asking about those thunderstorms out east. Let me pull back up the radar, the future radar for you here, so that way you can get a better idea about those. It does look like that kind of usual time frame for some of those stronger storms, 4, 5, 6 o'clock. It'll be a fairly narrow window because, of course, you probably all noticed the sun sets around 6:30 now. So once that sun sets, and we're talking about temperatures in the 60s, we're talking about very marginal conditions to support severe weather. So you've got a very narrow window to get strong storms this time of year here in Colorado. It can happen. It probably will happen in eastern Colorado today. So Danny, to answer your question, probably looking between 4:30 and about 7 to be your main time window. And this would be from about a line of, we'll call it Hugo, Sterling on east will be your main time window. With large hail and damaging winds, your main threats. Can't rule out a tornado or two along the eastern plains, though. That will not be your main threat. So hopefully it gives you an idea about what we will be looking at here over the course of the next 12 to 24 hours. And thanks so much for joining us here on 9 News Watch and on Facebook Live as well for a detailed look at your Colorado weather forecast. Meteorologist Chris Bianchi. Have a great rest of your day.